Okay, the city council meeting hasn't started yet.
Okay, well, how do I know, when to call in?
Are you watching the city council meeting on our Facebook?
Okay, so just go to the Facebook to watch it and then call in when I want to comment?
Correct. We stream the meeting live on Facebook.
Okay, but I do call into this number when I need, at what point do I call into this number?
When we reach the call to the audience, the public comment section.
Okay, all right, thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll wait for you to call back when we get to that point.
All right, thank you.
All right. Bye.
Thank you, Scott. Welcome, everyone, to this regular city council meeting for Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. Maria, would you please call the roll?
Fritz.
Here.
Lowe.
Here.
McLaughlin.
Here.
Manetza.
Here. Our invocation this evening is by Pastor Emmett Brown of Trinity Church. Please rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. I'd like to start with this reminder from the Apostle Paul to the Church of Philippi. In chapter 2, it starts as if there is any encouragement in Christ, any consolation from love, any sharing in the Spirit, any compassion and sympathy, make my joy complete, be of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility regard others as better than yourself. Let each of you look not to your own interests, but to the interests of others. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together to do the work that you've put before this city and these members of council. Father, I pray that you will give them clarity of mind. Let them work in unity together for the best interests of the city and the people that are in it. And Father, even as we see our nation divided over differences, let this body be one that is united in common purpose for the greater good of this city. And we also pray as the weather gets deathly cold outside, we pray for those who are looking for a place to stay. We pray, Father, that you'll provide shelter and protection for those from the cold so that we not lose anyone due to this inclement weather. Be with us now in this proceedings, that you would guide and direct our path and all of the decisions made. All this, Lord, we ask in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, that brings us to new appointments to boards and commissions. Could you read those, please?
Item A, appoint Judith Swiftney Dembowski to the EDC/BRA with a term ending of March 31, 2029. Item B, appoint John Grutheis to the MSDDA with a term ending June 30th, 2028. And item C, appoint Brad Vaderink, MSDDA, term ending June 30, 2028.
Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Fritz, second by Lowell. Any questions on any of these appointments? If not, would you please call the roll?
Fritz?
Yes.
Lowe?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes. Brings us to the approval of the consent and regular agendas. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Lowe, second by Fritz. Changes to the consent or regular agenda from anyone?
We did have a minor change to consent agenda item D. The amount is written as $36,500 and it should be $44,500.
Okay, so we'll need to amend for that. Any other changes to either the consent or regular agenda? If not, I would like to have a motion to amend the agenda to correct this number on item 10D.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second it.
Motion by Lowe, second by Fritz to correct item D to reflect $44,500 as the annual amount. Would you please call the roll?
Lowe?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes. Now, if you please call the roll on the approval of the consent regular agendas.
Lowe?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes. All right, brings us to our first call to the audience. This is one of two opportunities. At this time, members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their name and address and will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration, but will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to call in may dial 616-935-3203. Who would like to address council? Or who would like to call in? I know we had a caller earlier.
There's like,
There he is.
Hello?
Hello? May I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Please give us your name and address.
Sure. Joseph Parnell McCarter, 6408 Renwood, Georgetown Township, volunteer leader of the SaveTheCampbell.com effort. The state of Michigan, which regulates consumers' energy, has us on an unrealistic electric energy path. They plan to close and demolish in 2025 our county's Campbell plant, which provides reliable, affordable electric to 1 million regional residents as part of a broader effort to rapidly close all fossil fuel plants. We are making good progress in the Save the Campbell effort. 5 town boards in the county have passed a resolution to save the county, 4 of them by unanimous votes, and we have good reason to believe more town boards will do the same. Most area political leaders representing us in Lansing and Washington have indicated their concern with the 2025 closure and demolition of the Campbell. 2 Ottawa County Board members have expressed their intentions to seek to put this on the County Board's agenda and to seek to save the Campbell. Many hundreds of county citizens have signed petitions. President Trump and his energy czar, Doug Burgum, are promoting a new federal policy of keeping clean coal plants open and utilizing carbon capture, which means federal money may soon be available for this route. One of the main reasons for this support is because the preeminent experts on our regional grid operator, MISO, along with the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, are issuing urgent warnings about our region's electric grid and advising delay in closure of coal plants like the Campbell to avoid a dangerous situation for our regional grid. They realize, too, we have very viable legal options, including the county joining Wolverine Power in its successful litigation with Consumers Energy. 2, there are 79 counties and townships suing MPSC for its abuse of power on the related issue of overthrowing local zoning rules in a vain effort to replace reliable fossil fuel plants with what MISO classifies as unreliable solar and wind. Michigan law recognizes the need to delay closures when grid problems are resolved. Furthermore, Michigan law gives municipalities legal powers over electric when they choose to exercise them, as exemplified by how Grand Haven, Zeeland, and Holland all successfully have municipalized electric. The sad reality is that Consumers Energy and MPSC are treating Ottawa County badly. The MPSC is handsomely rewarding Consumers Energy executives and other investors with lots of money to do their bidding in rapidly closing fossil fuel plants. The MPSC wants gas as well as coal plants rapidly closed. The Detroit Free Press, thank you so much. Time is critical. The council needs to be united on this. We'd ask you, as a council, to pass the SaveTheCampbell.com resolution. Thanks so much for your consideration.
Thank you for your remarks. Who else would like to address council? We have some young folks here. Maybe they would like to speak. They're all shaking their heads. All right, well, if no one else would like to address council, we'll close the call to the audience at this time. There will be another opportunity to address council at the end of the meeting. At this point in time, we have a couple of presentations to make. I'd like to start with a presentation to Roger Bergman for his years of public service. Roger has recently retired from the county commission and seemed appropriate for us to speak to his time serving the public here. So let me read this recognition resolution. Whereas Roger Bergman has been a steadfast and devoted public servant for over 4 decades, consistently exemplifying the highest standards of leadership, service, and dedication for the betterment of our city and county. And whereas Roger's journey of public service began with the opening of his local business, Boris, in 1979, which not only contributed to the local economy, but also served as a foundation for his commitment to fostering growth and prosperity in our community. And whereas Roger's passion for the well-being of our city led him to serve on the Central Business District Development Authority in 1986 and the TIFA Board in 1987, where his vision and efforts contributed to the revitalization and economic development of our downtown area. And whereas in 1999, Roger was elected to the City Council, where he served with distinction until 2003, tirelessly working on behalf of our citizens and ensuring that their voices were heard in the decision-making process. And whereas Roger's leadership and dedication to the community were further demonstrated when he was elected mayor in 2003, a role he served in with honor and integrity until 2011, guiding the city through significant milestones, improvements, and challenges. And whereas Roger continued his public service by serving as a county commissioner from 2012 to 2024, where his deep commitment to the welfare of our region persisted, and his work helped shape the policies and direction of the county for over a decade. And whereas Roger's unwavering dedication to public service has had a lasting impact on the lives of countless residents and has played a crucial role in shaping the community as we know it today. And whereas Roger Bergman's legacy of service and commitment to the people of this community will continue to inspire future generations to serve with the same dedication and passion. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Robert Manetza, Mayor of Grand Haven, do hereby acknowledge Roger Bergman's many years of dedicated public service. We extend our deepest gratitude to Roger for his contributions, his tireless efforts, and his passion for making this community a better place to live, work, and thrive. I would like to present the resolution.
She's coming. Yeah, Ashley's coming for a picture.
Thank you, Roger.
3 minutes? Okay, I'll try to keep it down to 3 minutes. Wow, you know, I look at this and I heard those words and I thought, did I really do all that? But you know what? It's been my honor and privilege to be able to serve in various capacities. You know, and I think when we moved here in '79, I was active with Downtown Unlimited first, and then the DDA, and then the city, and then the county, and all along, you know, I always thought in terms of not just Grand Haven, but the better community of Northwest Ottawa County. Back then, we called it Tri-Cities, right? Now we call it the Northwest Ottawa County, because that's what it is, right? It's the bigger community that we serve. And so, in many respects, you serve Grand Haven citizens, but you also serve this greater community of people that live in Northwest Ottawa County and beyond that as well. So thank you for what you do, and it's been an honor and privilege for me to sit in that seat as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Roger.
Roger, before we move on, I also wanted to offer, add my congratulations and deepest thanks to you for, you and Karen, for your service to our community. A few weeks ago, or not even a few weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago, I was honored to be among many of the local business leaders, as well as county and state elected officials who gathered to honor Roger for his 24 years plus of leadership and public service to the community. First, as a council member and mayor for 12 years total, and then as county commissioner in Ottawa County for another 12 years or so. With the proclamation and that celebration a few weeks ago, there were many words used to describe Roger: passion, vision, dedication, inspiration, leadership. He was, and is all of these things. But the words that really resonated with me, Roger, were dignity, courage, humility, and kindness. No matter what the circumstances, however stressful and difficult, Roger was a role model of decency. Thank you, Roger, for all you've done for our community and for serving as my personal role model for an elected official.
Anyone else?
Sure. Roger, I remember in 2003, you ran for mayor and I ran for consul. I'm still here yet, but the thing is, it was, an article was written by Clarence Poole when he came up to me and asked me about different things. And my first thing what I said was that I'm very fortunate to have Roger Bergman to come in because he has a vision for the town and how to go forward. And I tell you what, you stuck by your guns, you did very well, and you had a great vision of getting all of us together. Spring Lake, Grand Haven, you were one that was always the one that always wanted to make sure that we were all represented, not just the city of Grand Haven. And also, I do remember when we used to go to our MML meetings, we always had a dress code. You always told us we had to wear our Oxford shirts, khaki pants, or whatever it was. We always had to have them dressed up. But that set a precedent when we went there. What was really good, what you did was, when Grand Haven showed up there in Lansing or wherever we went to, that's Grand Haven. You can see it because we were all coordinated together very well. And we made a statement, and it really helped us to get different grants and stuff when we went there because everybody kept saying Grand Haven, Grand Haven. They always wanted to know more about us. So I just want to say thank you for being my mentor and helped me through these years. So, Raj, it's been a pleasure.
1 minute. Roger, I just want to thank you personally. When I was running for city council, I gave you a call, asked you to meet with me, and you took the time. Sat in Jumpin' Java and took your Wall Street Journal, and we sat and we talked for quite a while. And I want to thank you for that. You surely didn't know me from Adam, and I want to thank you for taking the time to guide me in the right direction in running for city council.
Thank you, Kevin. And yes, you've been a great mentor and leader for all of us, and we appreciate all that. And we may not be done with you, so we'll find things for you to do. So thank you. All right, so now we'll move on to our second presentation, which is water license presentation from Derek Gatos.
Good evening, Your Honor, council members. I just want to take this time real quick to bring to your attention some of the licensing that our staff has earned in 2024. I haven't really done this annually, but I think it's something we should do. We should bring that attention. All of our public works officials, staff that work so diligently, they're out there today, right now, trying to make some snow go away. They need to be educated in order for us to serve the public in the way that they desire to be served. And some of them are regulatory licenses, some of them are optional licenses, but they're all to better the service. So I just thought I'd take a real brief moment, just got a couple slides. I want to talk about a couple different requirements for some licenses. The Safe Drinking Water Act of 1976 requires all of our water operators to be licensed. There's 4 different levels. We have to have a minimum license here in the city based on our population. The Safe Drinking Water Act has, there's actually 3 different designations. We use 2 of them here in the city. One is for our distribution system and one is for a filtration plant. So we'll talk about both of those. The Clean Water Act doesn't actually have any license requirements for the collection system. There are some at-will licensures and certification you can get. I actually hold the highest level of sanitary sewer collection licenses. It's actually out of the state of California. And they're trying to spread that around the country, but it's not required. But there is another one that we do use, and we do use it very distinctly in how we assess our sanitary sewer systems. It's actually the North America Sewer Service Companies. It's called NASCO. It's a nonprofit that established years ago that helps us determine what the condition. It's a condition assessment certification. So when we look at our sewer systems, storm or sanitary, we can assess them in the same categories that our engineers and our contractors will use. So we're always talking on the same page. These aren't necessarily easy to obtain, so I'll go through some of that in the next slide real quick. Again, there are 3 designations. We use the F and the S here. We have currently, we need a minimum an S2 level. We have more than that here. I hold an S1. We have 2 S2 holders here at the city. And no, actually we have, sorry about that, 3. We don't have any S3 licenses, but we have 11 S4s. And the water license used to be used for promoting for an operator 1 to an operator 2. So that's why I have so many S4s. But the S licenses is used to tell the state of Michigan, who we designate to run our water systems at the plant or distribution. So our goal is to have everybody licensed with those. If we want to go to the next slide real quick. So the F licenses, we currently have 1 F1. That's what our plant requires. We are working on getting a second F1 for just redundancy purposes. But we have 2 F2s. We don't have any F3s. And I have a question mark there, but I know we have 4 F4s. So all of our licensed operators at the plant, they have to be licensed in order to operate it, period. So I actually do hold an F4, but you don't want me running the plant. So it's some of those guys over there are the real professionals. But this year, we had 3 people get the water licenses through the state. We had Audrey Albright obtained her S4 in June of 2024 on her first try. She is one of only about 1,200 operators in the state of Michigan with that designation, as well as Joel Newsma. He obtained that here in November of 2024, again on his first try. And the one I'd like to point out at the filtration plant is Nick Demarest. He obtained his F2 license in the November 2024. He is one of 145 people in the state of Michigan that actually have an F2 license. So he's on his way up to get his F1. We also have another F2 operator there that's trying to gain his F1 license. But most of these, I'll let you know, most of these, just even on the lowest level, the F4 and the S4, it's a 50% success rate in testing at the best. When you get up to the upper level licenses, sometimes it's as low as 10 or 20%. So it's a really tough, they're very stringent testing, and it needs to be. This is clean water. We're talking about drinking water. So anyways, those three individuals, I just want to give a shout out to Audrey, Joel, and Nick. Passing on the first time, and F2 is nothing to shake a stick at either. So. The next one is sanitary sewer collection. We talked about the NASCO certification a moment ago. Again, that allows that person to understand the roles that it takes to designate what type of condition setting we have in our manholes, our laterals, and our sewer mains. And Zach Deephouse actually passed his in November 2024. He is our only current certified NASCO operator. So if you see someone out there televising sewer today, it's most likely him. We have a couple of people that are expired, like myself. There is recertifications that go along with that. But all these certifications licenses do continue education, so we stay current on these topics. So, again, I just want to congratulate those 4 people for those licenses. Those are really hard to get. They typically study on their own time, and you know, the residents of the city gain the benefit of having those professionals service them. So, and that's all I had tonight.
Okay, well, thank you. Any questions?
No?
Congratulations, that's great.
No, it's good
thank
to have good certified, competent people doing their jobs.
Absolutely. And thanks to them for putting forth the effort. So,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
that's all I had.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Would you please open the doors? I will. Thank you. It's an open meeting. Sometimes it's noisy out there, but fantastic. All right, that brings us to our consent agenda. Maria, would you please read that?
Item A, approve the special council meeting minutes of December 12, 2024, and regular council meeting minutes of January 6, 2025. Item B, approve the bills memo in the amount of $1,211,053.14. Item C, approve a Grand Haven Entrance Light Historic Interpretation Development Michigan Coastal Management Program grant agreement in the amount of $45,000 and authorize the city manager to execute the necessary documents. Item D, approve the bid proposal in the budgeted amount of $44,500 annually from Equity Marine Construction LLC of Fruitport, Michigan to maintain the Northwest Ottawa Water System Lake Michigan North and South infiltration beds on schedule or emergency call during the 2025 and 2026 summer seasons and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. And item E, approve a resolution honoring Roger Bergman for his years of public service.
Can I get a motion?
So moved?
Second?
Motion by Fritz, second by Lowe. Questions on any of these items? No, would you please call the roll?
Fritz?
Yes.
Lowe?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes. Okay, that we have a number of items of unfinished business. Would you please read the first one?
Item A, consideration by City Council of a resolution to approve and adopt the Brownfield redevelopment plan for the 1500 Kuhlman project located at 1500 Kuhlman Street, Grand Haven, Michigan, 49417, for a period of 17 years with an additional capture of 5 years for deposit into the local Brownfield revolving fund. Administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion for this item?
So moved?
Second?
Motion by Fritz, second by Lowe. We held a public hearing on this item at our last meeting, and due to the bylaws of the EDC-BRA board, we held off having discussion of that until this meeting. So now we're at that point. Are there, let's see. Would
you like me to?
you like to recap this, or should Emily do that?
I can recap it.
Or we have Roman is in the audience also.
Yes.
Why don't you start?
The real expert is in the audience, but, so as the resolution read, this is a 17-year request for a brownfield TIF with additional tag-on for the EDC-BRA. The project is construction of 12 commercial storage units that have, I believe it was on a 50-year vacant parcel, so a significant amount of investment on a vacant parcel in the city. The request would total a little over $532,000 for reimbursement to address the contaminants identified, as an example, arsenic, copper, and lead, identified within their brownfield plan. And as you said, Roman is in the audience. I believe I saw a representation from the applicant as well. So any additional questions you might have for myself, Emily, our finance director, or Roman, we're available.
Okay, thank you. Okay, questions from council members?
I guess first I'd just like to ask the clerk to ensure the meeting minutes reflect both Mayor Manetza and Councilmember Fritz, that they sit on the EDC-BRA board, which has previously approved this. I just want to note that just because we're a 4-person council, that's now 50% of our council that sits on that. And just because I'm less knowledgeable and also given your participation, both of yours on that committee, I know you've reviewed this in detail. And Mayor Pro Tem McLaughlin also has significant economic development experience. So rather than ask my naive questions, I think I'll defer to my council members to maybe give us a summary. Maybe you can help the public also understand some of your thought processes and where you're at on all this.
Okay.
Is that fair?
You guys can start.
Mike, would you have comment on this?
See, it's been a vacant piece of land. It's highly polluted down there. It's actually in the same area that my business is. And right now, it's going to be redeveloped, and it's going to give us back some tax base and that for us. But it's been vacant with hardly any taxes coming in on it at all. So as looking it over, I thought it'd be a great asset for the neighborhood down there and building up, having a business of some sort and getting some more taxes coming in for us. That would be very helpful for us. Yeah.
And it's a tax increment finance request as a brownfield because, one, they have to remove about 26,000 cubic yards, I believe it is, of contaminated soil. It's in a big mound on that property. And they have to install a urban stormwater system to retain the urban stormwater on site. And those are both eligible activities under the law regarding Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. So what that means is that over a period of time, any increment on the property tax, so if the property is taxed at a certain amount today, we continue to collect that indefinitely. Any increase in value, that increment on the tax goes into a reimbursement back to the developer to pay for eligible costs, spread over a 17-year period. This is one that's a little different for us in the sense that usually we find ourselves, the city is forgiving this, not forgiving, but returning this tax. And ends up being the provider of the incentives for these properties. In this case, we're also going to be getting reimbursement for state and education taxes, so that it's not just the city pitching in on this one. The alternative is for you don't help and possibly it spends another 50 years being undeveloped. So that's kind of the patient capital portion of what we do here. We don't necessarily lose. What we lose is our ability to raise the tax in the short term on it or realize more taxes. But in the long run, you have a development that we wouldn't have had otherwise or would likely not have had. No guarantee which way it would have gone, but this is an incentive to make it easier. It's always easier to go somewhere out of town on some vacant piece of property that has no encumbrances and build it there. And we would really like to have a little lightly used or abandoned properties in the town get new uses. That's why we look at these things. That's why we're proposing them. We don't propose, why they're entertaining the proposal for them. And we did have a third party review this on the specific financials and suggest that this was worth doing. Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Bob, you summed it up pretty well. I mean, I obviously took a close look at this. I want to thank the city manager for going up for the third party. I think that's important to us. You know, it's always been Fishbeck that just presents everything, and there's nobody that's really checking anything. And so I really appreciated PMR's review of this. They took a hard look at it. They thought it was something that we should invest in. And it's a storage unit, and it's surely not something that's world renowned, but it's it's an investment in our city. So based on the assumptions that was reviewed by PMR, I'm in favor of this request.
Okay. Any questions that we would like to ask of either Emily or Roman? Are we satisfied?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there are no more questions, would you please call the roll?
Fritz?
Yes.
Lowe?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes. Next item.
Item B, consideration by City Council of a final resolution to amend the zoning map to remove the sensitive area overlay designation from parcel number 70-03-21-328-031. Administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Fritz, second by McLaughlin. Brian, would you kind of bring us up to speed on this? We did have our initial resolution already, but you could quickly remind us of what this is.
Yes, good evening, council. Brian Urquhart, city planner. This is the second reading of the request to amend the zoning map, which is allowed in our ordinance when it involves a sensitive area overlay. So quick background is this parcel was always has been it's been undeveloped, formerly a celery field from what we've seen from other, from historical references. Salvation Army has owned it. It's about 2.0 acres. It's located within kind of a neighborhood area in the neighborhood mixed-use district. As far as it goes, Dwelling Place has collaborated with Salvation Army on what the steps is to get it possible to develop on it. Through that process with the sensitive area overlay, they went through the process of preparing a wetland delineation report and a limited scope environmental report addressing the items in the ordinance that refer to what makes it or what was originally classified as a sensitive area. Now, it is not, as mentioned during the public hearing, during the Planning Commission on December 10th, it is not a state regulated, it is under our ordinance locally regulated. However, the ordinance does allow for the Planning Commission to seek an environment, or allow the applicant to seek environmental review, environmental survey, environmental research into if this is available to be reconsidered in part or in whole. And they, throughout the wetland delineation report, they determined it to be not a high-quality wetland. Again, I will preface, I'm not an environmental scientist or environmental engineer, but in the token of the Planning Commissions, and from the perspective of the Planning Commission, they made a recommendation along with administration that that was enough information to satisfy the conditions to consider removing that zoning overlay. I want to make sure it's clear, overlay in that parcel. And so it was included in the packet regarding what they want to build there. It has been mentioned that there would be housing and affordable housing guarantee of about 66%. We're not looking at that right now. We're looking at simply taking away the sensitive area, removing that from the map, therefore amending the zoning map, and which is why it goes through the process. When we had the first reading 2 weeks ago, there were some concerns over how that criteria was listed, or how you define what makes it sensitive. In this term, a lot of times for a wetland, the report would address all the water resources that are there, a habitat assessment, critical habitats and species of concern. And so that limited resources environmental report did address that and did not find any issues with that. And so should this be moved forward, the zoning map would be amended, and then all the rights afforded to build what's in that overlay, in the underlying zoning district, neighborhood mixed use would be afforded to them. But right now, the plan is, should this get approved, some affordable housing at this type. And so, with that being said, again, not a site plan review, we're just taking a look at the environmental report, all the information that was provided. Planning Commission made the recommendation, felt it was enough moving forward. Again, I will say, not every sensitive area overlay that is locally regulated that may come forward in the future would almost be the same. There's a lot of other criteria that may come into place where it's already is protected federally, statewide, and locally, where this may be a very rare occasion. If I recall correctly, this is the only occasion that since I've been able to see, to where there's been a request to amend the zoning map of the sensitive area overlay because it was identified for those features. However, there are features that may have gone into proclaiming it to be a sensitive area overlay. It always is afforded the opportunity to revisit that, and that's what this requirement was for, and that the previously just a celery field, it was built up and never was originally a wetland, as the applicant stated in their report. And so the request is to, ordinance before you, is to amend the zoning map to remove the sensitive area overlay on this parcel.
Thank you. All right, so this is our second reading. Are there any questions on this? from anyone?
Brian, you said this was I'm sorry. You said this is considered a local wetland?
It's not a local, it's identified as a local sensitive area overlay with wetland features, with a,
Then this study went to the state, they went to the feds. Why?
that's the, the criteria that we measure it to, what the state and the federal laws act, refer to what is defined as a wetland, if it's a regulated wetland or if it's non-regulated. They determined it was unregulated by the state. However, locally, because of the features, the plant features, soil type, things of that nature, felt as though it was originally going to be, it was a wetland.
Must have cost them a fortune. That's an unbelievable study. I haven't seen one like that in a long time.
Okay.
Really? It's a lot.
I mean, it's incredible what they had to do. I'm 100% behind it. I was just amazed by the size and what they had to go through for 2.8 for 2 acres.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
That's all I had.
Yeah, it's a comprehensive study. I will say that the attachment that you put into our packet today included a subsequent or follow-up study, which I found more compelling than the original delineation. So I was a little bit unconvinced initially when we saw it last time, but I like the extra evidence you provided, so thank you for that.
Okay.
I do worry that our sensitive areas will eventually all be gone. People will find a reason to disqualify them as a sensitive area, but I guess we'll take them one at a time. Any other questions? No. Please call the roll.
Fritz?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Lowe?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item C, consideration by City Council of a final resolution to approve a major amendment to the Nodos Plan Development for an illuminated sign on the south wall located at 1223 South Harbor Drive. Administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Fritz, second by McLaughlin. Okay, so we had our initial resolution 2 meetings ago. In our last meeting, we entertained a final resolution, but didn't have sufficient votes to pass a resolution either way. I don't know that we need to go into great detail on this. It was substituting an illuminated sign for the non-illuminated sign that the Planning Commission had endorsed and sent to us. And this is a preliminary plan amendment for an existing plan development, which is why it has these extra complications to it. I guess I'd ask questions from council at this point.
Right. I just want to, I think that's a good summary. In December, City Council overruled the Planning Commission decision after, discussion regarding this request. And instead decided to draft its own amendment, which approved the illuminated sign on the south wall. The illuminated sign was denied by the Planning Commission. And we did this despite numerous letters to the city. My fellow council members refused to consider even the smallest accommodation, such as not illuminating the sign when the restaurant was open, which was an alternative that was discussed by the Planning Commission. And some of the council members, in my opinion, their comments were dismissive of the many comments and concerns voiced by residents who took the time to write officials or attend the Planning Commission meeting to voice their concerns. In fact, some of my constituents contacted me and asked if City Council had even read the letters that they sent to the Planning Commission and the city planner. As a result of the last meeting, I apologized to the Planning Commission for not supporting their decision, particularly without more thorough investigation and due consideration on the part of the City Council. For these reasons, I voted no on the final resolution 2 weeks ago. Since that time, since our last meeting, a few things have happened. First of all, the resolution, as Mayor Manetza mentioned, it failed to pass at the last meeting, but at the end of last meeting, both Mayor Manetza and Councilmember Fritz expressed interest in having it again on a future agenda, which is why it's on our agenda tonight. To ensure that council members would have a duty to review all the written input from residents concerned and concerned citizens, I asked the city manager to include all the related correspondence to any city officials in the packet, which she has done. Secondly, after the meeting, I spoke with Tony Noto and Tom Noto, who told me that all their exterior lighting are actually on automated timers, and their illuminated brand signs are set to go off during the night when the restaurant is closed. So whether we would ask them to do it or not, they were planning to do that. They do this today to conserve energy cost as well as to be good neighbors. Third, to some of the residents, I'll say this. You've expressed a lot of concerns about the condition of the area on the south side. Some of the concerns have been about the city's lack of code enforcement, about the appearance, some safety hazards, a number of other things. I think, the presence of refuse use, storage of off-season equipment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and I think it's all in there. While an illuminated sign, or any sign, might not be the outcome that you wanted, I do believe that an illuminated branded Noto sign on that south side could be the additional incentive needed for Notos to keep the south area of that building clear and uncluttered. It's been an ongoing complaint, no doubt, but it would obviously be damage their reputation for them to have photos of a new south wall sign if the south area were unkept and not kept clear of debris. So I think there is, I should say, perhaps this is not all bad. And anyway, as many of you know, my objection from this has been much more from a process and transparency perspective. Personally, I don't have a problem with an illuminated sign. However, I do think it's important that City Council is as transparent as possible and that we take great care and due consideration before we overrule decisions made by any of our boards and commissions. I was noting today that on Roger Bergman, we were talking about in his proclamation, in fact, his tireless work on behalf of our citizens to ensure their voices were heard in the decision-making process. I know many felt like City Council did not hear their concerns before making a decision on this. Our city charter calls for a 5-person elected council, 4 council members and a mayor, which is actually very small. Even surrounding municipalities have 7 or more on their council. But because we couldn't find middle ground in replacing the open seat next to me, Grand Haven City Council will continue to operate through November of 2025 with just a 4-person council. And that consolidates an awful lot of decision-making and power in a few individuals. It's our responsibility to set aside personal agendas, do what we think is right for the entire, community. Obviously, this isn't a black and white decision or right, wrong. I have mixed feelings on it. But I do believe that this is the right thing to do, and it is a middle ground, provided we have taken the time to hear our constituents, which I think happened tonight with the inclusion of those objections in the packet. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'd always supported this out of the gate. I just think that, first of all, frankly, I think the planning commission overstepped their bounds, making this a major amendment. I just can't imagine a sign doing that. And to put the owners of a very successful business through that, I thought was just not right. And I really hope that we treat our businesses a lot better than we just treated Nodos. Thank you.
I'm in full support of it. I own a business myself, and you got to have signs. I mean, that's how you attract people into your business, for one thing. If you ride by, you don't know what it is or whatever. And plus, it's not a really, I don't call it a big illuminated sign compared to what was out there before. If you go back in the old days, they had a big spotlight type thing up there, and it was shining all over the place. So this is much more subdued, and it looks really nice. And you're right, we shouldn't treat businesses, we should treat them very well. So I'm in full support of it, and I have been for a long time.
One thing I'd just like to add, that's been mentioned a couple of times, and with respect, I think we can agree to disagree, but on one point, we should take a look and say, external security lighting that's mounted on the same side of a building is not the same as having an illuminated sign. And I think, the Planning Commission understood that distinction, which is why they approved a non-illuminated sign. So I don't think it's a one-for-one trade-off, with respect.
I'll make a comment or two on the plan development process, and our zoning ordinance really is a mechanism for creating a unique zone for a specific project. So it's exceptional compared to our regular zones. And thus it goes through a process which is both a planning process at the Planning Commission and a legislative process at the City Council. And Planning Commission and Council look at issues through different lenses. And because Council is the legislative body, we enact what we think is correct legislation. So we do get the last word on that. And so while Planning Commission took a view on this sign that was, in their opinion, it was a split vote, but still the opinion of that body was appropriate. Council certainly has the right and the duty to apply our own judgment to that, and we did. And that's why the PD process is written as it is, so it is a bigger process than simply approving site plans. And that's the process, and whether you think it's cumbersome or too involved or whatever, it is written for a reason. I was there when it was written. I was the chairman of the Planning Commission when we adopted this, and I was at the time looking out for ways to make sure that the Planning Commission would be heard. And so that's why the Planning Commission first weighs in on a plan development proposal, which before Council sees it. And so Council has their full advice and then makes the decision they think is best. I'd also like to say that I read all of the letters when they were submitted to the Planning Commission, because I was at the Planning Commission hearing. I listened to all that, and I saw those letters, and I saw them again in our attachments. And I would say that we do read them, we do understand them. We don't always agree with everything that's said, but we do understand. So people are heard. And I would like to say too that when there are code enforcement issues and there's dissatisfaction with that, that's a separate issue, and that's something we should stay on top of. Code enforcement is important. If we don't enforce our rules, if we don't enforce our decisions, then we're kind of wasting our time here. So we need to do code enforcement. We shouldn't conflate that with other approvals and say we will approve this if you do that. These should be separate issues. So the importance of the sign is separate from the importance of the code enforcement. Hopefully we will follow up on that. I think that Notice is voluntarily complying, and if they aren't, then we can tell them what they need to do and they will do that. And I think that they've been good corporate citizens in this community since they've been here. So if there are misunderstandings or omissions or things that need to be dealt with, then we'll deal with those. So I think those are all important pieces of this. I thought that the sign was de minimis. I thought it was a very small amount of extra light, that it was very subdued, very tasteful. And I really didn't understand the Planning Commission's point of view, but like I say, we can apply our point of view as well. So I was in support of changing this to an illuminated sign all along for those various reasons. So if there are no more comments or questions, I would call for a vote.
Fritz?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Lowe?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item D, consideration by City Council of a final resolution to approve a major amendment to the Grand Landing Plan Development for a hotel located east of Miller Drive and north of Adams Ave. Administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion?
So move.
Motion by McLaughlin,
Support.
second by everybody. Second by Lowe.
There you go.
Okay. And this is the final resolution. Has there been anything different since our last, it's been a couple of meetings since we heard from this.
Yeah, again, Brian Urquhart, city planner. Since we last met on this with the first reading in December, this has changed anything. There has only been one slight modification in terms of the site plan. That is just a relocation of the dumpster that's shown on there from the southwest to the northwest corner. But as far as it goes with the hotel itself, single brand hotel, 102 rooms, 4 stories, still a home 2 suites, and is in the same amount of parking, and there's the same amount of drive and circulation. Everything along those lines has remained the same. The updated plans are included in the packet, and then the ordinance to amend it has been included in the packet as well. So as far as it goes, there's only, in my report, it said the southwest corner of the property for the dumpster. I apologize. It looks as though that was just moved to the northwest corner. Other than that, as Mayor Manetza had just said, a plan development is it's a legislative, and then there's a land use process. This would, if approved, this would amend the existing Grand Landing plan development that has been on for quite a while. They would then come back to the Planning Commission for a full detailed site plan review that would address all the questions of including lighting, parking, signage, stormwater runoff, anything along that nature that would normally fall under the purview of the Planning Commission. So we hopefully, once that step does come, we hope to anticipate that review in the next coming months. And so we do have Blake Bacall, who is the applicant or of Elite Hospitality Group, available to us, Zoom from Detroit, be able to call in, maybe add a little bit more to that if that's permissible.
Well, as a final resolution, does anyone have questions?
No.
Are you satisfied with this explanation?
Yep, I'm good.
Thank you, Mr. Bacall, but I think that we're good.
Okay.
And-
Thank you very much.
He's listening.
I sure am, and I appreciate you guys allowing me to join via Zoom tonight, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you. And any questions that come up, please feel free to ask.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, if there are no more questions, I would call for a vote.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item E, consideration by City Council of a final resolution to amend the zoning map to include 700 Washington Ave, parcel number 70-03-21-358-019 in the Centertown Overlay District. Administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion by McLaughlin, second by Lowe. Again, this is a final resolution. We've already discussed this at some length and voted on it. Is anything different?
Again, Brian Urquhart, I did want to say that this was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission. I know it doesn't show it on the screen, but they were all in favor. And again, there has been no changes to this request. This is just a map amendment. It's just adding, extending the overlay for the Centertown to this parcel, which is largely going to allow for greater building height and lot coverage. That's always been within the ordinance to do so. So other than that, there's been no change to this request or no new information.
Thank you. Questions? Anyone?
No.
Would you please call the roll?
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. All right, that concludes our old business, or unfinished business. Would you please read the first item of new business?
Item A, consideration by City Council of a resolution to authorize the submission of a revitalization and placemaking grant application for the 7th Street Clinton to Beacon Boulevard project in the amount of $1 million and commit the local match provided the project is funded. Administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion?
Move.
Support.
Motion by McLaughlin, second by Lowe. Derek is gone. Who's going to explain this to us?
Dana will.
Dana?
That would be me, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. So before you this evening is consideration of a grant application for $1 million to the Revitalization and Placemaking Grant program through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. As you know, we've long held the redevelopment of 7th Street as a priority project within the community. It's been on our capital plan for a number of years, and we now have the opportunity to apply for some outside funding to help support that project. That would be a full-scale reconstruction of 7th Street from Beacon to Clinton, or Clinton to Beacon, however you want to look at that. And we would be replacing some of the streetscaping. We'd be looking at the parking configuration in that area of the community. And that is following some input and renderings and concepts that were put together in 2019 with stakeholder and community input. We derived these plans that we're putting forward for consideration. We are continuing to look at all the variety of funding sources, so we don't yet have all the parts and pieces put together, but this is one of them, one of the pieces of the puzzle. We're also pursuing funding through the federal government, pass-through through MDOT, and looking at other outside grant funding and any other sources that we can pull together. So this project is really contingent on all those pieces coming together. So if we aren't able for some reason to assemble the appropriate project, kind of capital stack, if you will, then we will not move forward with it. And we'd, of course, be bringing any successful grant application back to you for approval before we actually signed any commitment.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
I think it's a great project. I think it's exactly, there's a lot of stuff happening along 7th in that whole corridor, and I think we got to support it and help the businesses in there and the developers that are stepping up to do additional development there. I think it's a very important project. Hopefully, we can get the necessary funding to make it work.
The total project you have here is $7,300,000, of which you said $1 million would be funded through the RAP program. And then you also, in your saying is that the remaining $5,375,000 project would anticipate come through local matching funds, the water, sewer, and that infrastructure bond funds. That's pretty a lot of money to be sitting out there for us to be hanging on to when we also have the our unfunded liability we have going on, and also Harbor Island, and we're going to be sitting out there with $5 million more dollars that we're going to be putting into it. And it's a great project. I have to agree with Kevin. It's really a good project, but can we actually afford all this when we have so much more that's on our plate? Do we want to, in the future, having that sitting out there for it? I think the project is good, but funding-wise, is it really smart for us?
I would just say that we're going to continue to work on Mike, on all the funding sources, and it may not amount to that 5.3 million that we would be committed through those funding sources. We would bring forward a holistic project before we said we were proceeding. So we're trying to line up all those pieces so that way we would not have as much liability on our side. But we do have funding available through those sources that I mentioned. So it's committing to it, but not finalizing all those commitments yet at this point. We would have a final approval through council, so this wouldn't be the final approval of the project, if you will.
Okay, we can also turn it down if we don't have the funding for the rest, or we can just turn it
Correct.
down.
If we don't
then.
line everything up, we can decide not to proceed.
Okay.
I think, since you mentioned the water, sewer, and infrastructure, those are all individual
Yes.
individual agencies.
Those are
I call them
enterprise
agencies.
funds, yes.
Yeah. And they're all sitting on, I don't know, between $15 and $20 million of fund balance. So it's not like we don't have some room to do projects like this. If we really want to dig into it, I'm not taking anything away from you, Mike. I'm just saying that if it's that important of a project, we should be able to find the money to make it work. And I'm not saying we're going to do it to $5.3 million, but it's not like it's coming out of the general fund. That's what I'm trying to say.
Correct.
You know, it's really coming out of our individual project funds. So I'm still going to be supportive of it, and hopefully we can make it work.
But we have to be careful with spending the money out of the water and sewer funds, because we also have some other major projects that need to be done in town here too also, so.
Oh, I know we have to prioritize
We don't want
everything.
to stretch it too thin,
Yeah.
because we don't need to be like Grand Rapids, where you have a lot of water problems.
They got a lot of development too.
Karen?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, and, the other $1 million that Dana was talking about is actually, it's being funneled through Windsor Dick. It's which is West Michigan Shoreline Regional Development Commission. It's actually non-motorized pathway funding, because that pathway has the opportunity for a bike path. So that sort of thing. So we're trying to put this together as best we can. Water sewer funds, again, are collected over and above the production and consumption costs to create this kitty of money for projects, whether it's to replace old infrastructure or to improve old infrastructure by building it up into a new project. In this case, it's all money that can't be put to some of the other uses that have come up. You couldn't put that toward your pension, and you couldn't put it toward Harbor Island, is because it's dedicated for specific things. So the infrastructure funding, which is going to be coming online soon as other old millages retire, so that's going to be diverted into infrastructure millage dedicated. Again, that'll be for projects like this, or to upgrade or replace old stuff that needs to be replaced. And I believe this project is slated for no earlier than 2027. Does that sound familiar?
Correct.
Okay, so it's a couple years out at best, maybe longer, it depends on what we can put together. It's a long overdue project. I remember talking about this 5 years ago. So, I mean, it'll be great, it'll bring new life to the Centertown area. We just gotta find a way to put it together. But applying for this grant is a good step. So, any other questions? Please call the roll.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item B, consideration by City Council to approve a contract extension with Republic Services for residential solid waste, recycling, and composting through December 31st, 2029. Administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion?
So moved?
Support?
Motion by Fritz, second by Lowe. Can you talk briefly about this?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yep.
Or is that a Dana thing?
This is a me thing.
I'm going back and forth here.
We'll take turns here. No, this is simply a relatively straightforward extension to our contract for residential services with Republic Services. It's a 5-year extension. The primary changes you'll see is within the rate as expected. That residential service rate per month has gone up to $19.82. And then the other additional cost increase was to the yard waste recycle carts that went from $2.35 to $4 per container. So those are the primary changes. All other services afforded to us within our contract that we take advantage of, for example, the spring and fall yard waste dates, the free event containers that we receive for various events throughout the city. All of those other services afforded to us remain the same, so those rates are really the only substantial changes within that extension.
Yeah.
And again, comparing with our neighbors and some other communities who've recently gone out to bid, we're extremely confident that our pricing is competitive.
But we didn't actually seek bids.
We did not
we're
seek
just doing
bids,
an
knowing our
extension.
neighbors did recently.
Okay. You mentioned in the agenda item composting. Was there discussion of any composting from Republic?
I believe they have, I believe, added, was it the residential? Trying to recall exactly what it was, but I believe they've added residential composting.
Because that's news to me.
options. Yeah. I believe that came with a recent merger, but I'll confirm the specific details on that.
Okay, well, I saw it in the agenda item and I was surprised.
Yeah, and that is the, also more or less the title of their extension,
Okay.
but I believe they do have that service.
I'm just trying to figure this out. I just got a bill from them, quarterly bill, works out to $15.25 a month, which is exactly what it says. Except that they also say that they have $4 per month if you have a recycling and a yard waste cart. Well, I'm not trying to add money to anybody, but where does that show up? I mean, I'm not getting charged for it. Is other people getting charged for it?
It's additional carts.
If you get a cart, are you putting a cart out there?
It's for each
Yeah,
additional,
I got 3 of those
so they get one free.
95-gallon monsters.
Yeah.
You get one.
They're monsters.
Kevin,
They're ugly.
you don't pay for the first one.
None of them, none of the first 3.
Yeah, that's included within the
Yeah.
service. So
Okay,
they,
I just,
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't read it like that. Now, the other thing is that in the old contract, it says that the bag service, which I didn't even know we had, was $10.91 a month. That's now increased to $19.82 a month. And this was supposed to be in place to help our senior citizens, which I'm one. But it's a almost an 82% increase. Do you know why?
so I'm just quickly reading it. That I don't know, other than, again, without having any increases in the last 5 years, they've had to increase across the board. So I know they were at one point looking to phase out the bag service, so my guess is there's some added cost in their pickup efforts that have caused them to increase that.
Now, was the bag service ever a discounted service, or was it always similar in price to regular, the 90-gallon cart?
It was comparable, yeah.
That's what I thought, because I still put out a bag. But I go down to Myers and buy bags. I don't get
Yep.
any special bags for that.
Right, and you pay $1.50 for that bag?
No.
That's what it says? The price per the bag is supposed to be $1.50. Is that what you pay?
I go to Myers and buy trash bags and put them out, and they pick it up just as if it were a cart. There's no difference.
And you get charged $10.91 a month?
I get charged the same thing you do. $45 every 3 months. And it's going
Same
up.
here.
You're supposed to get $10.91, but you're only supposed to be charged $10.91 according to the old, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to understand this.
There may be some billing questions we have to check on.
Well, if you can get me a discount, I'll take it, but it's never been a discounted service for me.
He's sure a good guy. Okay, well, I didn't know there was a bag service. I
Okay.
learn something every day.
Well, I think
Okay.
they're trying to get rid of it, so don't
Yeah.
go
Don't
there.
count on it.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I'm glad we have just one service in our town, because
Yeah, that's good.
because the
Oh,
simple
geez.
fact is, the damage to our streets, if you had 3 or 4 different services going at different days and all the time, it'd really destroy our infrastructure. So I'm very happy with us being the negotiator for it and helping our citizens out with a good price. This is good.
Okay, please call the roll.
Fritz?
Yes.
Lowe?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes. All right, that brings us to our report by city council. Who would like to speak first?
I don't know, we're talking about garbage here.
Important stuff to do.
Oh, are we done trash talking?
Yeah, we're done trash talking now.
Okay. then. Is that your report?
No, I got a couple things. I have heard through the grapevine, and if I'm talking out of school, please let me know, that the Chamber of Commerce may be stepping away from the farmer's market and the Jingle Bell Parade.
I heard the same thing.
You've heard the same thing?
Yes, I did.
You know, I'm obviously, as somebody that's very much thinks those two things are the pride of this town, to walk away from that, I think is not in the best interest of this community. I really hope that somehow somebody's going to step in. If we have to step in, we have to step in. But anybody who walked down for that Jingle Bell Parade this year was pretty
Yes.
pretty impressive. And for the chamber to walk away from that, I don't think they're serving the community like they should, frankly. And I think, based on that, we may want to even think about a membership in the chamber. But if they are really going to walk away from those two things, I think it's something that we should take very seriously as a community and find out, how we're going to address that. That's my report.
I agree. I heard the same thing. The rumbling around town is a couple organizations that were to come to talk to me about the Jingle Bell Parade because they've been asked if they would like to take it over. And they want to know what was going on also. They're concerned about it. And same thing with the farmer's market. It's been a good mainstay for us and a good thing. And who's who, what, where, and when, we got to figure that out. Wine About Winter, it was fantastic. I walked through there a little bit. I didn't stay around much, but it was pretty packed again, as usual. It's nice to get people downtown. Don't forget, Winterfest is coming, and that's always a good time. That's for us local people here. I think we have enough snow this year to have a good time at Winterfest. Dress warm. And that's about all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the Wine About Winter was great. A great time was had by all. That was, I think, record attendance. Is that what I heard? Yeah. It was very busy, and I will say, even with sort of the transport between Centertown and downtown, it was still hard, it was as packed in Centertown as probably, I don't know, almost as packed. But a good time was had by all. I guess the only other thing is I want to thank our city staff again for all their hard work in putting all of this stuff together and getting it prepared for us. You guys work hard every moment of the year. I guess you don't really have any holidays, but thanks for doing that again and again.
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to acknowledge it's been on Channel 13 News about the Baymont Inn Motel helping homeless people with donations from the public. I think it's a great thing that someone has stepped up to do. The city actually doesn't have much capacity for sheltering people who are in crisis. It's just not something that the city has taken on or has really the capacity to do, so that the fact that the private sector is stepping up and helping is extremely commendable. It says a lot about our community. So I wanted to acknowledge that. I wanted to express my disappointment when I heard today that Commandant Fagan, Admiral Fagan of the Coast Guard, was fired today for whatever reason. But she was here for our last Coast Guard Festival, and she was made a great impression upon this community. We appreciated her visiting here and representing the Coast Guard in the community. And I also wanted to mention that I'm on one of the Michigan Municipal League lobbying committees. I'm in the Environment and Energy Committee. We are a committee that of community leaders who go in and talk to our lobbyists, who go and talk to legislators in Lansing about pending legislation, things that are being proposed, things that we would like to see either changed, made better, made worse, or gotten rid of. But it's a lobbying effort on the part of the city and all the other cities in Michigan to keep an eye on legislation and make it work for us. So I went there today for kind of a kickoff meeting. The MML has a set of legislative priorities for this session. They would like to see a revenue sharing trust fund resurrected. It died in the last legislature. Almost passed, but didn't quite make it. But that would stabilize revenue sharing for the communities from the state. That didn't pass, so they want to bring that back. They want to address interaction between Headley and Proposal A as far as property tax. It's basically a way of discounting for inflation so that they try to manipulate the value of properties when you tax them. It's really a clunky system that has actually been counterproductive, but it's in place. Something needs to be done. They want to create a neighborhood roads fund, which would help with funding our roads in local communities. They want to continue funding the revitalizing the placemaking program, which is the exact thing that we applied for earlier this evening when we voted for the Centertown. That was this RAP program. They want to see that for continued funding. Implementing an employer housing tax credit, which would be, again, another piece of the housing puzzle that is a priority to get something in place. Protecting our ability to regulate short-term rentals. There was a proposal last year to not only protect our ability to regulate short-term rentals locally, but also to tax them with an excise tax to help compensate for the extra services they require. And that died in the last legislature. We're worried that it'll come back as preemption again, because some years ago they proposed preempting the local authority to regulate short-term rentals. We want to make sure that our ability to regulate is protected regardless of any taxation or anything else. Enacting a mobility trust fund, which would be another state fund which would be helpful to local communities for mobility. I believe it's for infrastructure type of work. And implementing stormwater utilities, codify the process of implementing stormwater utilities. So those are their legislative priorities. These are all things that are good for local communities. They do a lot of work on our behalf, and I'm pleased to be able to participate in that process. And anyone else who's interested in following the Michigan Municipal League, go to mml.org and see what they're up to. But it's all good stuff. And that's all I've got. So,
I have a question for you.
Yes.
On that excise tax on a short-term rental, would the excise tax go back to the local municipality?
$5 out of every
You're
six.
saying yes on that one.
It would be, it would think it was going to be $5 out of every six because it was going to come back to the locals. And like $1 out of six was kept at the state level. If that had passed, it would have been a significant amount of money for a community like ours.
Yeah.
It would have helped us a lot with some of our
Absolutely.
budgetary issues. It didn't pass, and I would have gladly given that up in order to codify our ability to regulate the short-term rentals, because to me, that's critical that at the local level, we have that right to regulate our land use.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So the excise tax would have been icing on the cake, but it wasn't, to me, it wasn't that important.
Yeah.
But the whole thing didn't make it through the last legislature, so it has to start over now, if it's going to. So, report by city manager.
I don't have anything, just want to offer, again, my sincere gratitude to our employees, especially our Department of Public Works and Department of Public Safety, who are out there in real time in these conditions, working to keep the conditions and people safe, whether it be clearing the roads, addressing water main breaks, or just simply keeping people safe and dealing with any emergencies that are arising. So sincerely appreciate them and the outstanding work that they do year-round. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Well, that brings us to our second call to the audience. Excuse me. So at this time, members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their name and address, will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration, but will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present would like to call may dial 616-935-3203. Who would like to address council? Or who should I call on? Why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Come up to the podium, talk to the microphone. Since I know you guys.
So we are 3 Boy Scouts from the Troop 246 down by the church, First Presbyterian, right down there. We came for citizenship in community, and we're just here to observe you guys.
Okay, do you have a name?
Yeah, my name is Felix Verhag.
Okay, and?
My name is Archer Verhag.
And?
Charlie Gaff.
Okay, well, welcome, guys. I hope you found this to be enlightening.
Thank you, it was.
And I also read the assignments today, and it said that we're supposed to note one of your disagreements.
How'd we do?
You get them down?
What you may have noticed is that we discuss things, even when our votes come out unanimously in favor of something, we all have a different take on it. There's differences of opinion that come together in votes in different ways. So you may get unanimous votes, but there's still different points of view and they have to be resolved.
And we
sometimes
can-
there's differences in votes. Go
And
ahead.
we can listen to one another and change our minds,
Right.
which is really important.
So no fist fights up here.
Yeah, thank you for.
All right, thank you for coming.
You guys are waiting for a brawl.
All right, well, if there's no one else, then I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming.